Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today we're going to talk about UFO debunker Steven Greenstreet, the writer of the New York Post, who is a presence on Twitter and also puts out post videos on YouTube and has been very disparaging of the effort to finally end the secrecy that surrounds the UFO phenomenon, which most certainly is something that the Pentagon and the military-industrial complex has worked very hard for many, many years now, for decades, to keep from the public. There is a extraterrestrial presence here, despite what debunkers tell you. They don't know what they're talking about, as everyone knows. I've had my own experiences. I've seen these things. I've seen a creature. I've seen a craft up close on different occasions, as everyone knows. I'm not going to get into it. So I know when a lot of these people are telling the truth with regard to their encounters. But the Steven Greenstreet, for whatever reason, has been he's been very vicious to people within the UFO community, particularly people like Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, Jeremy Corbell, a lot of different people. George Knapp, people who a lot of people in the UFO community view as they're the ambassadors to this at this point. To this effort to finally get the government to give us the goods that we've been waiting for and hollering for a long time. So this person, for whatever reason, he tries to undermine it at every turn. He's constantly posting stuff on Twitter, old articles that he's written months and months and months ago. Disparaging comments on Twitter, tries to make fools out of people within the UFO community, tries to make them look like lunatics and crackpots and crazy people. I think it's all projection, and we're going to go through this. I think that this guy has some serious issues. Of course, now the New York Post is not a reputable news source for starters. Okay, a lot of people here recognize that it's trash. I mean, it's one of the worst newspapers in the country. It's owned by Rupert Murdoch, and it's filled with nonsense and sensationalism, constant. It's worse. It's one of the worst things you've ever seen in your life. And I'm not sure who's responsible for these crackpot articles that are being put out there by Steven Greenstreet, but I guess we're going to talk about all of that. We'll get into all of that. But I want to get into something that happened just on Twitter yesterday. So Greenstreet's talking about this new foundation, it's called the Sol Foundation. He says here in a recent tweet, it says, the Sol Foundation is a new UFO company proclaiming victory after a deceptive 6-year media campaign successfully duped Congress about aliens. So that's just I'll get into what he says about the Sol Foundation in a second, but this guy has been writing articles for a while now for the New York Post and creating videos where he tries to disparage this effort that's ongoing in Congress, and he tries to claim that everyone in Congress has been duped by certain people like Lou Elizondo, Jeremy Corbell, Christopher Mellon, that these crackpots, according to Steven Greenstreet, has duped Congress somehow about aliens. That's not true. This guy's making this up. He has no idea what's going on in Congress, as a lot of us do not know what's going on behind the scenes in Congress. This guy does not know what's going on with Congress. Congress has seen things that this guy has not seen, so he has no idea what he's talking. When he's making these statements, these are outright lies. But anyway, he's talking about the Sol Foundation. Now, this is a new group. It's headed by Gary Nolan, the Stanford professor, of course, who has an interest in UFOs, and also another person here. Let me look it up here. Peter Skafish. He's the director of research. This guy, Skafish, is Dr. Skafish is a socio-cultural anthropologist who has held faculty and research positions in France, Canada, Germany, and the United States. Now, in his tweet about this new Sol Foundation, Greenstreet has a paragraph, and he has one section highlighted. We'll go through the paragraph, and I'll tell you what part of this is highlighted. It says here, "The time has come for serious, well-funded, and cutting-edge academic research into the nature of unidentified aerial phenomena and their broad cosmological and political implications." Well, let me just stop there. The Sol Foundation, actually, you guys have made a mistake. It should be unidentified anomalous phenomena. Anomalous. All right, anyway, continuing. It says, such a claim would have been beyond the pale of respectability just 5 years ago, but the United States government's recent and continued acknowledgments of UAP have changed them from a subject unworthy of academic consideration into a scientific and intellectual problem of unfathomably broad stakes. And here's the highlighted part. This is the part that Greenstreet highlights because he has a problem with this, and we're going to go through it, through the highlighted part and his problem. Now that UAP are considered real enough by Congress to be addressed with federal legislation, that's the end of the highlighted part, we are forced to consider the broad consequences of this for the future of science, technology, economy, politics, law, religion, culture, and all other human institutions and endeavors. So, and then Greenstreet in his tweet comments on this highlighted part. He says, real enough is apparently, quote, good enough to lobby for some taxpayer-funded resources. Saul states that they'd like to offer advisory UFO research to the United States and other national governments and provide suggestions for new UFO laws. Okay, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with the statement now that UAP are considered real enough by Congress to be addressed with federal legislation? And that's true. It is true. They're real enough to people in Congress that there are laws that have been getting passed. I mean, where's this guy at? Doesn't he know that this has happened? I don't understand what's the point here. What do you mean? It's what's happening. There are laws getting passed. It has nothing to do with taxpayer funded resources getting burnt. No, they're doing this because they've actually seen things behind the scenes. And the other thing, the other issue here is that they have been meeting with whistleblowers behind the scenes, in addition to David Grush, and he doesn't know anything about this. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. Anyway, continue here. Then he points out another paragraph with another party highlights. He says, to provide reliable, cutting edge, and these next words, the rest of this sentence is highlighted. To provide reliable, cutting-edge advisory research to the United States and other national governments as well as corporate clients. Saul will establish itself as, and then then it ends. The highlight ends. Saul will establish itself and remain the foremost think tank on UAP, the source of the most informed and insightful policy recommendations available. And then Greenstreet's comment here is, anyone who's been paying attention, so not the news media or government leaders, realizes this is complete and utter madness. Says who? You? Greenstreet? What are you talking about? Utter madness. And it's not. What are you talking about? It's not utter madness. There's real things out there flying around that people are seeing. Anyway, continuing here. He also says, Saul is made up of dubious UFO activists with dubious motivations. Here's my previous breakdown of some of the people involved. And he has a link here to some of the people involved, and he provides reasons why these people are dubious. I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, I want to continue what he says here. He says, also, strikingly, Saul is currently hiding its association with UFO whistleblower and congressional UFO witness David Grush. Okay, in this quote, he says, in quotes, he has UFO whistleblower in quotes for some reason. I don't know why would you put that in quotes? And congressional UFO, quote, witness, end quote, David Grush. He has, quote, witness in quotes. Okay. For what reason? Why would you do that? Why would you have UFO whistleblower and congressional UFO witness in quotes? He is. That's what he's doing. He's blowing a whistle on what he's discovered. That's what he did. There's nothing to... What would you think your audience is a bunch of morons that they can't understand that? You have to put it in quotes like they never heard it before? We all know why he's putting it in quotes. He's trying to make it sound like, well, how could he be a real witness, right? That's what he's trying to do, but he's totally wrong. Again, how does he know what's going on behind the scenes? Has he been in any of these closed hearings that have happened in Congress? Has he sat in on these skiffs with some of these other whistleblowers that David Grush was talking about? Does he know who they are? Anyway. So he's making a big deal about, for some reason also, that David Grush is with this board. It's so what? David Grush actually said it. He actually indicated that during the hearing. And then for Greenstreet actually has that part of the section of the hearing listed. When Grush provided information on his experience, he wrote, one of the things, May 2023 to the present, Chief Operating Officer, or COO, of the Saul Foundation. And what is he listed his responsibilities: managing day-to-day operations for a 501c3 federally recognized nonprofit, the premier center for research and in the natural and social sciences, engineering, and the humanities, but also extends activities to advisory and policy work for the United States government / public outreach. I don't see what the problem is with this. I mean, so just because his name's not listed on the new website, on their website right now, that David Grush's name's not listed. There's a lot of people's names that aren't listed there, apparently, from what I could see. If you go to this website, there's only 2 names listed: Gary Nolan and Peter Skafish, and and it's listed under main board, and it says Gary Nolan is executive director of the board. It doesn't list all the board members just because it doesn't have. I don't see any. Why should that be a problem that David Grush's name's not mentioned on here? That doesn't mean anything. I mean, you're saying it does for some reason, but it doesn't mean anything. Do you have any? Where's your proof that this means something? What are you trying to say? Because it's not listed on there. Apparently there's a lot of other people involved in this, and their names aren't there either. It's not. There's no nefarious thing going on here like he would let his like his idiot people who follow him would be led to believe, right? So I don't know what he's talking about there. And then Greenstreet goes on in the same tweet. He says Grush is nowhere to be found on the UFO company's website, despite recently telling Congress he's the chief operating officer. Again, so what? What's the issue? Why does that matter? It's like there's nothing being hidden here. He said it in Congress. Why? What does that? So his name's not on the website. Maybe it will be at some point in the future, but maybe he's the one who put. Maybe as the chief operating officer, maybe he's the one who put the website together and didn't put his own name on there. So what? Like I said, there's other people apparently that are part of this. It's not just him. But for some reason, this is nefarious. This is strange, according to Steven Greenstreet. Okay, and then he also says, Grush is directly connected to a small cadre of, quote, crazy, end quote, ghost hunters and, quote, nut job, end quote, UFO believers. So he's calling, and he has a picture here of David Grush sitting at a table with Jay Stratton, George Knapp, and Travis Taylor. Okay, and then he ends it here. He says, Sol Foundation will be holding its first, quote, event, end quote, in November, featuring some of the same spooky activists who've been doing the paranormal hustle for many years. So for some reason, this guy, you see how this is, how he rolls. He's just constantly disparaging. He's trying to make everyone at the top of this the UFO community that we are part of, some of the biggest names that we have in the community. He's trying to make them all look like they're all crazy, every single one of them. His main focus is, if anybody's noticed this guy on Twitter, is Skinwalker Ranch. He seems to put all of his a lot of his attention, a good chunk of it, on Skinwalker Ranch, and that it's all and he tries to lump the entire UFO community into this Skinwalker Ranch. That's what it seems like. He gets a lot of information from dubious sources. His articles that he writes are incomplete and idiotic. Actually, we're going to go through one of his articles soon here. And then he has a follow-up tweet here, and he's complaining about Gary Nolan. It says here, Gary Nolan, the executive director of the Sol Foundation, says that he sees a huge commercial gold mine in UFOs. Nolan is a UFO activist who claims an alien visited him as a child and that aliens have been visiting Earth for a long time. And he has a little portion of this interview that Nolan recently had. And Nolan does say, but see, Greenstreet takes it out of context here. Yes, Nolan does say that there's a huge commercial gold mine in UFOs, and he's right. There would be. I mean, if you were able to use that technology for the human race, then yeah, there's a gold mine and there's a huge commercial gold mine there, right? I mean, that's a completely accurate statement. What's wrong with that? Again, he's making it sound dubious that Gary Nolan would say something like this. Anyway. And we're going to get into one of his articles in a little bit here. But before I do, I want to start going through what I think is happening here with this Steven Greenstreet. For one thing, I've lost respect. I mean, I don't like Mick West at all, right? But he associates himself with this Steven Greenstreet. The vitriol that comes out of Greenstreet, I mean, it's just horrendous. And for someone like Mick West, who tries to present himself as some dignified gentleman. I mean, the idea that he basically associates himself with this Steven Greenstreet is just a joke. I mean, that just ruins his credibility. Should ruined his credibility with everybody. I mean, anybody who associates himself with this Steven Greenstreet, their credibility is shot as far as I'm concerned. That's why recently I've been talking on this podcast. Like, I used to always stick up for John Greenwald of the Black Vault. However, he seems more times than not to associate himself with this Steven Greenstreet. This guy is a total jerk. And it might even be deeper than that. We're going to get into that. And we're going to, what are the reasons? What are the reasons behind this guy's attitude and why he acts the way he does? I mean, okay, here's this picture here. Here's a picture of Greenstreet, just so you know who we're talking about here. That here apparently he just got done with an audition for auditioning for the main lead in Springtime for Hitler. No, just joking. Anyway, so what is his problem? He says, let's go through his what I think. What are the possible issues with this guy? There's 6 of them that I've listed, and I'm going to tell you which the final one is the answer that I believe is the case. Anyway, number 1, he's working for the Pentagon. I've heard this one from different people, that this guy's an asset to the Pentagon. Yeah, that could be true that he's an asset to them, but actually just, if anything, a useful idiot. The guy's a fool. I can't imagine anyone in the Pentagon trusting this guy, this clown. I just don't see it happening. I don't think that he's working for them. I don't think he's receiving any money from them. I think that idea is completely crazy. Of course, it seems like he's associated with Susan Go and all that kind of thing. Susan Go, of course, is the spokesperson for the Pentagon. He's associated with, but he's not working for him. That's crazy talk. I don't see that one bit. So I eliminate that one. Number 2, he's being told to do this by his boss. That's possible. That's possible. Of course, Rupert Murdoch represents a lot of different politicians in the GOP. That he wants GOP people to win all the time, and there are a lot of people in the Republican Party, as are in the Democratic Party, who receive a lot of campaign bucks from the military-industrial complex. So is it possible that Rupert Murdoch is, or some other boss below Rupert Murdoch, who's being told by Rupert Murdoch to tell Greenstreet to write these disparaging articles all the time? That's possible, but I don't think so. No, I don't buy that one. Okay, number 3. Like Mick West and other debunkers, he's simply afraid of the phenomenon and issues phony claims and writes bogus articles about UFOs to soothe his delicate nerves. Yeah, it could be. I believe some debunkers out there are just afraid of this whole reality that we are living in, that they don't want to accept, and they just do these things because they're scared. They live in their whole lives in fear of this. But I don't think that's the case with Steven Greenstreet. It probably is with someone like Mick West, but not with Steven Greenstreet. So I eliminate that one. Okay, moving on. Number 4, he holds a childish grudge against a person or people within the UFO community, and this is his narcissistic revenge. That's possible. That could be the case here. Like, he might have been denied an interview in the past by someone like Lou Elizondo or somebody else in the UFO community, and he felt slighted, and then he was acting like a child, and he's just been trying to get revenge the whole time. He could be one of those types of people. That is possible. I don't think that's the reason, but that's one of the reasons, one of the things that's possible. Okay, number 5. He's intensely stupid. This could be true. This guy could be really stupid. And I'm gonna show you why. I'm gonna go over one of his articles. This was an article from back in published in March in the New York Post, and it's the headline here is "Crazy UFO Believing Pentagon Bosses Missed Spycraft for Years." Okay, and this article begins, and this was written by not only Steven Greenstreet, but also a fellow writer named Todd Farley. And it was published on March 21st, 2023. And I'll leave the link so you can check this whole thing out for yourself. Anyway, it says, the Post was right. The, quote, UFO, end quote, story is fake news. Okay, that's a really stupid thing to say for your opening paragraph, okay? The Post was right. The, quote, UFO, end quote, story is fake news. Okay, now, this is to put that the acronym UFO in quotes. Why would you do that? Think about this. Why would you do that? The only reason you would do that is because you believe every single person who's going to read this, right, is stupid. He doesn't have any respect. Him or his partner have no respect, right, for their readers. It doesn't matter if they're skeptics or UFO believers, right? doesn't matter. He has no respect for him because he put that acronym in quotations. Now, of course, as we know, UFO has been in use since the 1950s, but yet this guy has to put it in quotes. Now, why? It doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, if he's trying to make the fact, like the idea that UFOs are weird or something, that doesn't do anything. Why would you do that? You would not put that in quotes. That's bad writing on top of it. You just wouldn't do that. Everyone knows what UFO means, right? You don't put it in quotes like you wouldn't understand it. But I don't think he wasn't doing it for that reason. But he knew what he was doing. He was doing it to make it, for some reason, to make it sound like it's phony or something. Like not even UFOs aren't real. It's so stupid. But really, what he's doing, what I see here is that he used it that way because he doesn't respect his audience whatsoever. He thinks everybody who reads the New York Post, his articles in the New York Post, are complete idiots. And you know what? They probably are. They probably are idiots. Right? I mean, I told you before, the New York Post is unbelievable garbage. Okay, I'm moving on here. It says, and we'll just read a little bit more of this article. It says, after a gigantic Chinese spy balloon flew over America, the mainstream media and some congressional leaders are still looking for aliens. Quote, aliens, end quote. Okay, so basically remember I talked about this. When the Chinese spy balloon nonsense was all ongoing, even before they shot it down, and it was a big story, I was talking about on the podcast how this is all this is a shiny object to direct everyone's attention away from the UFO discussion and then make it look like, oh, see, it's just Chinese spy balloons, right? So what he's doing here, he's talking like the mainstream media is still looking for aliens. Really, the mainstream media went along with him, so I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe the mainstream media latched onto this and they acted just as much of an idiot as he did. So I don't know what he's talking about here. And what does that doesn't change anything. So a Chinese spy balloon's flying over America and it gets shot down. That solved, according to Steven Greenstreet, that solves the whole mystery. See, it was only balloons the whole time. What a moron. And see, this is why I think number 5 could be relevant, that he's just stupid. All right. And then it goes on here. It says, and it's now reported that the Pentagon missed several incursions of foreign spy craft for years because they were instead looking for UFOs. How did this happen? It seems a small group of UFO activists spent years misleading a credulous media and an oblivious Congress. So this guy, he has a lot of dubious quotes from people. He doesn't prove anything. Right, he thinks he tells this incredible yarn that he makes it up. Basically, some of his sources here come from the Pentagon, which, as everyone knows in the UFO community, never ever trust the Pentagon when it comes to UFOs. They're always lying. They've been lying since 1947 when it comes to UFOs. So you can't trust the Pentagon. So that's his source. How could you believe that source? They're still lying about it, right? But he goes on with this incredible yarn about how he believes this small group of UFO activists like Lou Elizondo and have tricked somehow the Congress into investigating UFOs, creating legislation for UFOs. Somehow these people tricked Congress. Congress have seen things that this idiot here, Greenstreet, has not seen. It's just as simple as that. It's as simple as that. I mean, he disparages people like Lou Elizondo. Now he disparages people like David Grush. David Grush, who, by the way, the Inspector General for the intelligence community found his complaint that he filed for the repercussions he was facing for going public with his knowledge of what he learned about UFOs and recovered bodies. He filed a complaint with the Inspector General, and the Inspector General saw that it was credible. So again, what's he talking about? Now, I'm not going to get into this whole giant, ridiculous, complicated yarn that he spins here about how all these people tricked Congress, because it's a joke. It shouldn't even. It's made up nonsense. His sources come from the Pentagon and some other idiots. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He goes by documents which we don't even have. We don't know what documents from the Pentagon or what we're really getting, if it's the truth or not when it comes to this, because again, it's UFOs. How can anybody believe this stuff? But anyway, we're going to go right to where how he sums everything up here at the end of this ridiculous article. It appears that a small group of UFO believers distracted the media and Congress into looking for extraterrestrial UFOs, while in reality, terrestrial spy craft were brazenly flying over America with impunity. This is nonsense. This is all made up hogwash. It's nonsense. He's just pulling this stuff out of his butt. It's all made up. It's all made up, and with the help of people within the Pentagon. Okay? And then he says, in a tweeted video, Senator Marco Rubio states that no one took it seriously because immediately it was about UFOs and flying saucers and aliens. But rather getting fixed, the same mistakes are seemingly still being made. Some of the same UFO activists involved in the fake 2017 New York Times story lobbied congressional leaders like Senators Kirsten Gillibrand and Marco Rubio to create a new UFO program called the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW. ARROW is reportedly looking into an avocado UFO from 1945 and investigating whether flying saucers turned off American nuclear weapons in 1967. So these are stories that we've heard, right? The 1945 case, that was a case that Jacques Vallée has investigated, and we've heard about details about that. And the 1967 case, he's referring to the Malmstrom incident that happened in Montana. And we know Robert Salas is one of the witnesses. There was other witnesses that have talked about this, where missiles were shut down. Basically, Greenstreet's just dismissing all of this out of hand. He's just without any evidence to back up anything that he says. He's just calling these people crackpots and nuts and wackos and things like that, nut jobs, because that's all he has. He doesn't really have, and there's no story here. He's not done anything. His research has really shown us nothing. There's nothing. It proves nothing. There's nothing here, but yet this guy just keeps. For whatever reason, the New York Post keeps allowing this guy to keep putting out this trash, this horse dumping it on people. It's hard to believe that they would continue to have this guy's supposed to be a reporter. This isn't even reporting. What this is opinion pieces. This is a supposed reporter that's doling out opinion pieces. This is his opinion. He just doesn't believe in any of this stuff. He's calling them all nuts and things like that, disparaging names. But anyway, I don't think it's that he's stupid. He is stupid, yeah, but that's not the reason. Well, I'm going to get to number 6 is the one that I think is the reality here. I think he's a total crackpot. I think that Steven Greenstreet is totally, absolutely out of his gourd. This guy's a nut. He's a nut. He's out of his mind. And so when you hear him calling other people nut jobs, really what's happening here, he's basically projecting the reality situation. This guy's nuts. He's crazy. He's craven. He's looking for attention. He thinks this is the only way he can get it by, this is the greatest story of all time. The realization of the human race. We're finally moving toward that point where the entire world is going to recognize the reality that there is an extraterrestrial presence among us. But we have people, crazy people like this, crackpots. This guy should just hang out in the streets like with a cardboard sign and hold it up that says something like, it's not true that you aliens aren't real. Please believe me, or something like that. Have a little can out for himself to collect money, because this guy, that's what he looks like to me. He's totally can't accept this because he just doesn't want to, and now he's cracked up because of it. You don't see he's basically like a broken record on Twitter. It's just a constant churn. Keeps promoting story articles that he's written months and months and months ago. This guy's a crackpot. It's unfortunate. This guy's a lunatic. I guess the New York Post, because it's such a bad newspaper, they don't care about what kind of writers they have working for them. This is not what you're reading. The article, like I said, the one that I was just reading from, that was opinion piece. That wasn't like news. That was just an opinion piece based on nothing really. There's no story there. It's not a full story. It's an incomplete story, whatever kind of story he's trying to tell. So just because he might sue people like Susan Go, I'm sure, and other people within the Pentagon, and also the military-industrial complex, I think that they look at this guy like a useful idiot, similarly to how people look at Ken Klippenstein from The Intercept. As we all know, Ken Klippenstein was the reporter who wrote that hit piece against David Grush recently, and he was used as a one-time idiot. You won't really see Klippenstein that much writing about this topic. That guy doesn't really know much. Total absolute dope. Just all he does is basically get some file for Freedom of Information Act requests on a regular basis, and gets dirt on people and writes garbage about them, and then collects a paycheck for the trash that he puts out, and the Intercept pays him. That's basically what he does. Similarly to what Greenstreet does. Greenstreet does this on a regular basis, though. That's his, main focus seems to be the UFO phenomenon, and he's targeting the people who are trying to get disclosure. He targets now this new Soul Foundation, and tries to make it look like it's something crazy and crooked, and he doesn't find anything good whatsoever in it at all. He doesn't really do any research either. Basically his articles are not it's not objective reporting. It's opinion, and it's cracked opinion. This guy again is totally absolute imbecile. I mean, moron. And I'm not a doctor, right? But I mean, anybody with two eyes could see that this guy's not right in the head. I mean, the way he talks, I've seen him talking in interviews. He seems like he's nuts, to me. I mean, woo. If I were the New York Post, I'd maybe put him on leave for a little bit, let him get some rest. When do you get some rest? Go ahead, get some rest. Because you know what? You're not right upstairs, man. You need some sleep. You need to stop thinking about UFOs. Maybe it's too much for you. You know what it might be? I think it might be too much for him. It's too much for him. He needs some rest, obviously. Well, does he have any family that could intervene here and help out? I mean, there has to be, you would think, right? Who knows? I mean, I don't know. I don't know his private life. Who cares, really? But yeah, I think the story here is that this guy, he just projects. He's calling all these people these disparaging names. He doesn't know. He writes idiotic stories that has no real evidence of anything. He writes crackpot tweets on Twitter that make no sense, that go nowhere, that he thinks he's doing something. He thinks he's doing a service for humankind or something, and there's nothing there. I mean, that's why I say I go at number 6. I think this guy's a total, absolute crackpot. I think he's complete nut job. Incredible, but that he has some kind of a position at the New York Post. You'd think they would be paying attention to some of these tweets that he puts out. My gosh. I mean, they should be embarrassed. It's embarrassing. I mean, if as a major news organization out of New York City, I mean, that's an embarrassment. I mean, where's Rupert Murdoch? What are you doing, man? Don't you see what's going on here? I mean, maybe Rupert. If you go back to my number 2 possibility, was that he's being told what to do by his boss. I can't imagine. I don't think Rupert's that crazy, is he? I mean, to have this crackpot on there, just willy-nilly write anything, put any kind of tweet out, call people nut jobs and things like that, and amongst the other disparaging words, that's not the way a reporter's supposed to act. Reporters are supposed to be objective. These are opinion pieces. This isn't reporting, but it's in the guise of reporting. That's the sad part. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me, I guess. Maybe that's what the New York Post wants, and the kind of writers like this, crackpots, crazy people. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the people around him. I mean, it has to be tough for his family to see this disintegration into insanity over everything that he, then to see everything on his tweet. It's probably embarrassing. I'm like, oh my God, you see what Steven did today? He just can't accept this reality, Wow. So yeah. Steven, get some help, buddy. You need it, man. You really, really need help. Anyway, thanks for joining me, everyone. Until next time.